History is often shaped by a single event, a moment that sets the course of nations and people. In November 1938, a young man named Herschel Grynszpan committed an act that would reverberate across Europe, igniting one of the darkest nights in history. Kristallnacht. But who was Herschel Grynszpan? What drove him to take such a desperate action, and how did it become the prelude to a tragedy of unimaginable proportions? Join us as we uncover the story of Herschel Grynszpan, the man whose personal grief became a spark in the powder keg of Nazi Germany. This is a tale of despair, defiance, and the cruel machinery of a regime that used one act to justify a night of terror. Herschel Grynszpan was born on March 28, 1921, in Hanover, Germany, to a family of Polish Jewish immigrants. His parents, Sendel and Rivka Grynszpan, fled the rising tide of anti-Semitism in Poland, seeking a safer life in Germany. But safety proved elusive, as anti-Semitism followed them, intensifying under the shadow of Adolf Hitler's rise to power. Life for the Grynszpan family was humble. Sendel worked as a tailor, and Rivka cared for their 3 children. Herschel, the youngest, was bright and curious, but often felt the weight of being an outsider. In school, he faced bullying and prejudice, experiences that left deep scars on his young mind. As a teenager, Herschel demonstrated a fiery independence. When anti-Semitic laws began restricting Jewish education and employment, he refused to sit idly by. At the age of 15, he decided to leave Germany for Paris, hoping to find opportunity and escape the oppression that was suffocating his family. It was an act of both defiance and hope. In Paris, Herschel lived with an uncle and struggled to make a life for himself. Unable to secure work or legal residency, he became increasingly isolated. Letters from his family painted a grim picture of their lives in Germany, as Nazi policies stripped Jews of their rights and dignity. By 1938, Nazi Germany's campaign against Jews reached a new level of brutality. On October 28, 1938, the Grynszpan family, along with thousands of other Polish Jews, was forcibly deported. They were rounded up, herded onto trains, and dumped at the Polish border in freezing conditions. Poland, unwilling to accept them, left these refugees stranded in a no-man's land without food, shelter, or hope. Herschel, still in Paris, received a desperate letter from his sister, Berta, describing the horrific conditions his family faced. Her words were a cry for help that tore at his heart. Alone, powerless, and anguished, Herschel decided he could not stand by while his family suffered. Consumed by anger and despair, Herschel hatched a plan to strike back at the regime that had destroyed his family's life. He purchased a revolver and decided to confront the German embassy in Paris. It was a decision made in the heat of desperation, a young man's attempt to make a statement against an unrelenting tide of injustice. On the morning of November 7, 1938, Herschel walked into the German embassy and asked to meet with an official. He was directed to Ernst von Rath, a 29-year-old diplomat. In a moment of rage and sorrow, Herschel shot Rath, firing 5 bullets. 2 struck the diplomat, leaving him mortally wounded. The shooting of Ernst von Rath became an immediate propaganda tool for the Nazi regime. They framed it, not as the desperate act of one young man, but as a conspiracy by global Jewry against Germany. For the Nazis, this was the perfect pretext to unleash a wave of violence they had been planning for years. 2 days later, on November 9, 1938, Ernst von Rath succumbed to his injuries. That same night, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, erupted across Germany and Austria. Mobs, encouraged by Nazi officials, attacked Jewish homes, businesses, and synagogues. Over 1,400 synagogues were destroyed, thousands of Jewish shops were ransacked, and nearly 100 Jews were killed. Tens of thousands were arrested and sent to concentration camps. It's important to note that Kristallnacht was not a spontaneous eruption of anger. Historical evidence shows that it was a carefully orchestrated event, planned by Nazi leaders as a way to escalate their persecution of Jews. Herschel Grynszpan's act of desperation became their excuse to unleash widespread terror, further isolating Jews in German society. Herschel, meanwhile, was arrested by French authorities and held in custody. Unbeknownst to him, his act had set in motion events that would lead to the Holocaust, a genocide that would claim the lives of 6 million Jews, including members of his own family. Herschel Grynszpan's fate remains a mystery. After the Nazi occupation of France, he was extradited to Germany and imprisoned. The Nazis intended to use him in a show trial to justify their actions against Jews, but the trial never took place. Records suggest that he was last seen in 1942, and it is presumed he died in a concentration camp. Today, Herschel Grynszpan's story is a reminder of the desperation and defiance faced by those living under tyranny. His actions, though fueled by personal anguish, were manipulated by a regime that thrived on fear and hatred. Opinions about Herschel Grynszpan remain divided. Some see him as a tragic figure, a young man pushed to the brink by unimaginable circumstances. Others question whether his actions ultimately helped or hurt the cause of European Jews. What is undeniable, however, is that his story sheds light on the human cost of prejudice and oppression. Herschel Grynszpan's life was cut short, but his story lives on as a testament to the devastating consequences of hatred and the lengths to which one person will go to fight for their family. It's a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the tragic costs of unchecked power. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about the people and events that shaped our world. Until next time, let's keep learning, reflecting, and striving for a better future.